What's up, guys? In this video, I want to go over one of my favorite challenging literal equation math problems that I would always give to my students and they would get it wrong. Now, to give a little context here, I used to give this problem in Algebra 1, in geometry class, as well as Algebra 2. And it was just a great way for students that have already passed or learned little equations, like in Algebra 2, for them to kind of review the steps to be able to solve for a variable. Obviously, in geometry, this is a equation that or formula we would commonly use, so it was very important for them to be able to solve for it. And in Algebra 1, we're just first learning literal equations, so this was a good challenge. But no matter across the spectrum, students still had trouble with this problem. So what I want to do is kind of show you step by step how I approached it as well as taught my students. Now, in this example, what we're actually going to be trying to solve for is n. And there's a couple problems or issues with that would always confuse students. One is that we have two n's, right? Number two is that we have an n in the denominator. Students don't like this. And number three, we also have an n inside parentheses. All three of those things combine to make some tricky scenarios that students would get confused with. So the first thing that I always tell my students to be able to do when we're solving for a variable and it's in the denominator, get it off the denominator. So to do that, I'm going to multiply by an n on both sides, because n divided by n is simply just going to divide to 1. Okay, now we have an n on both sides. And we know we have to get the n to the same side, right? We can't solve for n if they're on opposite sides. So I need to somehow get this n over here, or vice versa. But I'm going to try to take the n to the left-hand side. Unfortunately, though, it's being subtracted by 2. And it's being multiplied by 180. So what I need to do is undo these parentheses. So how do you undo the parentheses? Well, what I can simply do is just apply distributive property, and now I no longer will need to have a use for the parentheses. Okay, perfect. Now you can see I have an n here on both sides, but to get the n's to the same side, I can simply just subtract a 180n over here to the left-hand side. All right, now here comes the other tricky part. We have two n's. We know we can only solve for one n. And typically we like to combine them, but we can only combine when they're like terms. That means the variables and the variables are exactly the same. See how this has an n and an m? This just has an n. So unfortunately, these are not like terms. So what I'm going to have to do is actually factor out the common term. So since they both have a common term of n, I can now factor that out, and that's going to leave me now with the expression a m minus 180. Now, all I simply need to do to be able to solve for n is divide or undo this multiplication of the m minus 180. So to do that, I'll simply just divide by m minus 180.